All right, let's start with the United States. The U.S. government, it's officially shut down, as I mentioned earlier. The impasse over funding bill effectively rendering most federal agencies without funds. The last-minute stopgap bill to extend government operations also fell in the Senate.
It's the Democrats' far-left base and far-left senators have demanded a showdown with the president. And the Democrat leaders have bowed to their demands. And apparently, the American people just have to suffer the consequences.
We stand at the precipice of a government shutdown because Republicans are not serious about keeping the government open.
Republicans inevitably needed Democrat support for the bill to get through. It failed to secure the 60 votes needed in the Senate to advance. The vote among Democrats was nearly unanimous against the bill. Speaking outside the Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson accused Democrats of playing political games and risking the livelihood of Americans.
There's nothing new in this legislation. There's no poison pill. There's no partisan tricks. There's no gimmicks whatsoever. The only difference today is the man who is sitting in the Oval Office. Rather than work with President Trump and Republicans to get this job done, as our party has done repeatedly in the same situation over the years, Democrats want to play political games with the lives and the livelihoods of Americans.
But why didn't the funding measure pass? The divide is over health care. Democrats demanded restoration of the Affordable Care Act subsidies and reversal of cuts to Medicaid. Republicans resisted, arguing that the funding bill should stay clean without policy riders or added health care mandates. Let's just take a look at what the shutdown means on ground for workers and the American people. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that up to 750 federal workers could be furloughed daily. $400 million of daily pay to federal workers has been frozen. But some essential services will continue. That's air traffic controllers, TSA screeners, federal law enforcement. But this too without funding. Still, unpaid workers and staff may strain these operations over time. The shutdown is not a new phenomenon in the United States. Since 1981, there have been 14 instances of a shutdown, some lasting just a day or two. A shutdown lasted for 20 days between December 1995 and January 96. The most recent one came during Trump's first term. It lasted 35 days. This is also reportedly the longest shutdown the U.S. has ever faced. This one could last longer. Trump has threatened irreversible cuts to benefit programs if no deal is reached. Currently, talks remain stalled. Democrats are unified in their opposition and the Republicans insist on their terms. But the question remains, will one party blink or will the shutdown continue, causing substantial damage to American economy? All right, joining us live on the broadcast now to discuss this further is Richard William Painter, who is an American lawyer and professor at the University of Minnesota Law School. Thank you so much for joining us on Race to Power.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, Mr. William, what's your assessment of what's happened in the United States? Do you think this is going to be a short-term shutdown beyond the theatrics? Do you think any party would really want this to continue?
We'll see what happens as we go through this. We go through it quite frequently where there's a showdown over something that one party or the other wants in order to pass the budget. And we wouldn't be in this situation if our government weren't borrowing so much money and therefore having to raise the debt ceiling. And that's what this is about, raising the debt ceiling so we can borrow more money. And that's because the Democrats want to spend a lot of money on things and the Republicans want to give big tax cuts to billionaires. So nothing adds up. And so every year we got to raise the debt ceiling. And this is a serious concern. But both parties are to blame. Now, on healthcare spending, I think the Democrats have a very strong position politically going into the elections. We don't want to cut spending on healthcare. Most voters do not. But I think the Democrats are really hurting themselves linking that to keeping the government open. We need to keep the government open. They should pass a clean bill And then the Democrats should push very aggressively on their position on healthcare spending, which I believe has appealed to a lot of voters. And if the Republicans won't allocate enough money for healthcare spending, I think the Republicans will be in big trouble in the elections next fall. But the Democrats are not helping themselves at all by threatening to shut down the government if they don't get what they want on healthcare.
Right, Mr. William, that's something that has been the common theme from all the other experts that we've spoken to at this point as well, that they're truly just hurting themselves at this point. So what you're saying is pass a clean bill and then rally behind the healthcare. That's something that the Democrats have been demanding as well. Now, if we were to just talk about the practical implications and the long-term impact of this as well, we know that certain agencies will continue to run. However, they are going to feel the pinch. So what's your take on that, and what's the way forward really at this point?
Well, the problem is that President Trump is going to use this as an excuse to yet further gut the civil service and fire federal employees, which he has been aggressively trying to do since he took office in January. And this is just going to give him an excuse to downsize yet further in the federal agencies because there is no appropriation from Congress. People aren't going to be able to argue, well, he's going against the will of Congress when he downsizes an agency that Congress is not willing to fund and there's no money. So once again, I think the Democrats are really hurting themselves because a lot of federal employees could end up being fired, permanently removed from the civil service because of this government shutdown, which is completely unnecessary. And the Democrats ought to focus on health care spending as an important political issue in Congress and in elections, but not shut down the government in order to address it.
All right, we hear you. Thank you so much for joining us on WION World as One with your perspective on this.
Well, thank you very much for having me.